Welcome back, viewers. You're watching WION World is One. This is World DNA, the show that gets you ahead of the rest. I'm Shivan Chandna.
And I'm Hem Korsara. And on the show today, US President Joe Biden has vowed to stay in the presidential race despite his shaky performance in the first presidential debate against Trump. During a call with campaign staff, Biden in fact reassured top Democrats in Capitol Hill that he is fit for a re-election. What sort of an impact will this have within the Democratic camp, as a poll suggested earlier that 1 in 3 Democrats were opposed to Biden's re-election bid? We'll track that closely for you.
Also on World DNA, the Hamas militant group said on Wednesday that it has sent new ideas to Qatari mediators aimed at ending the Gaza war with Israel. Now, Israel, on the other hand, confirmed that it was indeed evaluating Hamas' comments on a deal to free its hostages in the Palestinian territory and would reply. Both sides are under increased international pressure to agree to a ceasefire. We'll get you the latest on that front right here on World DNA. Let's get you started with that.
Is President Biden considering stepping down?
Absolutely not.
US President Joe Biden vows to stay in the 2024 presidential race, insists in meetings with Democratic lawmakers and governors that he is fit for re-election despite his shaky debate performance last week.
Trump edges past Biden in opinion polls nationally and across battleground states after Biden's poor debate performance, as Democrats' turnout is in question.
Britain looks set to elect Labour Party leader Keir Starmer as its next Prime Minister as voters go to polls, sweeping Rishi Sunak's Conservatives out of office after 14 often turbulent years.
Israel confirms it is studying Hamas' response to a proposal that would include a hostage release deal and ceasefire in Gaza. Hamas confirms submitting its latest proposal, says that it is eager to reach an agreement to stop the war.
Nepalese Prime Minister Pushpa Kamal Dahal in crisis after key ally in his multi-party coalition withdraws support, pushes his government into a minority in parliament 4 months after the coalition was formed.
Toll in the deadly stampede in India's northern state of Uttar Pradesh rises to 123. This is the death toll. Hunt is on for the preacher who was conducting the religious gathering.
Powerful Hurricane Beryl churns along Jamaica's southern coast, battering the island with dangerous winds and sea surge after leaving a trail of destruction, and at least 7 people dead in the Caribbean.
World champions India return home 5 days after winning the T20 World Cup in Barbados. The men in blue are given a hero's welcome by fans and will meet Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi for breakfast next.
All right, US President Joe Biden has vowed to stay in the presidential race despite his shaky performance in the first debate.
During a call with campaign staff, Biden reassured top Democrats in Capitol Hill that he is fit for re-election. Now, according to sources, he told worried members of his campaign team that he is not going anywhere. The president added that he remains the Democratic Party leader and is not being pushed out of the 2024 race. This after a New York Times report said that the president is weighing on his decision to continue.
Is President Biden considering stepping down?
Absolutely not. And you heard, I believe, directly from the campaign as well.
Is the president telling people he's evaluating the race?
False. That is absolutely false. I saw that reporting. We were not given enough time to get back to that reporting, just a couple of minutes, and we asked the president President responded directly when asked about this question because we said that we would, and the President said it is absolutely false. That's coming directly from him.
And Korean President Biden has always promised to tell the American people the truth. So can you be straight with us and the American people? Is the President clear-eyed about what it takes to stay in the race and what it would take for him to drop out?
The President is clear-eyed, and he is staying in the race. I don't have anything else beyond that. He's staying in the race.
In the Democrats' camp, this is the first step away from uncertainty after Biden's debate debacle. Soon after the statement by the White House, national polls showed Biden's chances against Trump had deteriorated since the debate.
A Wall Street Journal survey found Trump beating Biden by a margin of 48% to 42%. A New York Times Siena poll found Trump's lead over Biden had widened by 3 points and is now 49% to 43%. And in a CBS News poll, Trump now has a 3-point edge over Biden across the battlefield, across the battleground states collectively, and a 2-point edge nationally. All of them agree on one point: the debate has shifted the race in Donald Trump's direction.
So even if he is still knee-deep in the electoral battle pit, Biden's next few appearances heading into the holiday weekend must go well. The president has an interview scheduled for Friday with ABC News that concerned Democrats will have an eye on.
According to reports, House Democrat Jim Clyburn has said that the party should hold a mini primary if Biden steps aside. He is now the first senior party member to talk publicly about how replacing Biden as a candidate could in fact work.
Clyburn has also said that he would back Vice President Kamala Harris as the presidential candidate if Biden were to depart. A handful of governors are potential rivals to Biden as well. But if pressure for him to step aside increases, Harris is the likely successor. For more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani has sent us this report from New York. Listen to this.
As Americans celebrate the 4th of July holiday weekend, the White House continues to scramble to contain the fallout from President Joe Biden's debate performance, which has sparked concern not only among Democratic governors, but donors as well. In response, President Biden planned a meeting with Democratic governors in Washington and a trip to Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. However, some governors are seeking more direct conversations with Biden himself, expressing frustration with the lack of contact with the president and worrying about the impact on the party's chances moving forward. Meanwhile, the upcoming NATO summit in Washington next week is another test for President Biden himself, as his campaign hopes to shift the focus to America's international concerns. Now, the event will compete for attention with the U.S. presidential race as Biden's campaign faces scrutiny and Donald Trump's preparations for the Republican National Convention. The president is also expected to do a sit-down one-on-one interview with ABC News on Friday, the first after his debate. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
All right, for more on this, we now have with us Spencer Crishley joining us live from Monterey in California. He is a former communications advisor on the Obama campaigns and an author. Sir, thank you so much for joining us on World DNA.
Pleasure to be here.
Sir, of course, you've heard what President Joe Biden has had to say about him being in the race for the White House. What impact do you feel this will have on the Democratic camp? Of course, we also cited the polls earlier. A poll recently suggested that 1 in 3 Democrats think that U.S. President Joe Biden should end his re-election bid. What's your assessment of this?
I think it's crucially important that Joe Biden and the Biden campaign are completely authentic with Democrats across the country, as well as the independents who are likely to want to vote for him or another alternative to Donald Trump. Especially at a time like this, historically, voters have been becoming more and more fed up with inauthentic politicians. And at a moment of crisis like this, when Biden did deliver a debate performance that really was terrible and voters could see that for their own eyes, any suggestion of trying to spin this and try to convince voters they didn't see what they actually saw, I think will backfire very badly for all those reasons. On the other hand, if Biden and the Biden campaign can show that he is in fact as competent as his record indicates he is, because he's been a historically successful president, both domestically and internationally, then I think he can bounce back from this. But I think authenticity will be the key here.
Mr. Krishley, now, there's no prominent elected Democrat which seems to outperform or do better in any kind of a hypothetical matchup against Trump. Do you think that Biden's re-election bid stems from the fact that there is no other option in the Democratic camp?
Well, as President Biden himself has said, he believed in 2020 and he believes again in 2024 that he is the candidate most likely to be able to defeat Donald Trump. And he proved that in 2020, of course. Now, that said, we shouldn't read too much into polls, because it's a very different situation to be polling people who are not in the running for president with somebody who is the incumbent president. I certainly hope that the truth is that President Biden is capable of going forward. And if he is, then he should absolutely commit to it, and his supporters should absolutely unite behind him. But if the truth is that for some reason he is not capable of going forward, I believe there will be other alternatives. In all of these things, it can sound naive, but in fact, it's very often strategically the smartest thing to do is to focus on just what's true and proceed towards the right choice from the truth. Because if the truth is not on your side, you're constantly fighting against reality, whereas if it is on your side, you have the truth at your back at all times. There are eminently qualified alternatives should one be necessary, and the list begins with Vice President Harris.
All right, Mr. Krishley, thank you so much for joining us and sharing all your insights, having this discussion with us. Of course, after the first presidential debate, things seem to be going more in Trump's favor. Of course, there is still time before November. Let's see what comes out. We will be in touch for more on this. That was Spencer Krishley joining us from Montreal, California.
The race for 10 Downing Street, it's reached its final stage. Between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. local time, the United Kingdom will go to polls.
And results will be announced in each of the Parliament's 650 constituencies throughout the night. Now, Britain looks all set to sweep Rishi Sunak's Conservatives out of office after 14 often turbulent years. And
we do not surrender to Labour. We have 24 hours left. We do not surrender to Labour.
Of course, these have been often turbulent years, and bringing into power the Labour Party with Keir Starmer as the Prime Minister seems to be where this poll is heading.
A polling company, Salvation has forecast a record-breaking win for the Labour Party. Salvation Central scenario shows Starmer's Labour winning 484 of the 650 seats, as against 64 of Sunak's Conservatives. Other analysis also shows smaller margins of victory for Labour, but none have shown a different overall outcome.
Now, in 2019, the Conservative Party won 365 seats, 48 more than in 2017. The Labour Party, on the other hand, won 202 seats, 60 less than 2017. Sunak and Starmer made their final pleas to voters ahead of the general election.
Every single vote has to be earned. We have to go out there and make the case. Change only happens if you vote for it. And imagine. And imagine a different future. Friday morning, a Labour government elected in.
We do not surrender to Labour. We will fight for every vote. We will fight for our values, and we will fight for our vision of Britain.
Now, what issues are important for the voters this time? 52% of the people think that the economy, that's the top issue facing the country. 50% think health, and 40% think immigration and asylum. Around 20 to 24% of the people list housing and environment as key issues. Crime, defense and security, education, Brexit and tax are some of the other issues listed by Britons.
There are renewed hopes of a ceasefire in Gaza after Israel's Mossad spy agency says that Israel is in fact studying Hamas' response to a proposal that would include a hostage release deal.
Right, a statement that was released by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office on behalf of Mossad says that the mediators have given the negotiating team the hostage deal outline and Israel is now examining it.
Now, Ismail Haniyeh, the Hamas leader based in Qatar, spoke with mediators in Qatar and Egypt regarding the ideas being discussed by the movement in order to reach an agreement to end the 9-month-old war. Hamas says the movement has engaged positively with the essence of the ongoing deliberations and it is eager to reach an agreement to stop the war. Mediators, including Egypt, Qatar and the United States, have been trying for months to secure a ceasefire and the release of 120 remaining hostages in Gaza, but their efforts have, of course, stalled till now.
As Gaza ceasefire effort shows signs of revival, Israel continues to pound the enclave on the ground in Gaza. According to Palestinian health officials, at least 12 people were killed in Israeli airstrikes in central and northern Gaza. Residents claim Israeli forces also carried out new strikes in the south amid fierce fighting with Palestinian militants overnight. Israel's military said a 21-year-old captain was killed in combat in northern Gaza, raising ground offensive's toll to 323.
Fighting persisted overnight in 2 locations in central Rafah, where tanks have seized several districts and advanced further west and north of the city in recent days. The Israeli military said its forces pursued targeted operations in Rafah, dismantled several military sites and killed Palestinian militants. An Israeli airstrike also destroyed a UN school in Khan Yunis in southern Gaza, where displaced Palestinians have taken shelter. Now, on Wednesday, a senior Hezbollah commander was killed in an Israeli airstrike in southern Lebanon. He was one of the highest-ranking officials in the terror group to be killed in 9 months of fighting along the border. Hezbollah responded by firing at least 100 rockets at northern Israel on Wednesday afternoon.
Hezbollah confirmed the death of Mohammad Nima Nasser, also known as Abu Nima. A short video obtained by Reuters shows a car on fire, said to be that of Mohammad Nasser's. In the video, a vehicle is seen engulfed in flames in a residential area. And the powerful hurricane Beryl churned along Jamaica's southern coast, battering the island with dangerous winds and a sea surge.
Of course, it left a trail of destruction behind and at least 7 people are dead in the Caribbean. Footage from the capital Kingston and the city of Halfway Tree showed heavy rain falling and strong winds shaking treetops and overhead cables. The eye of the Category 4 hurricane has not yet breached the shore of Jamaica, but could in the coming hours.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness declared a curfew from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. local time across the island of 2.8 million and urged Jamaicans to comply with evacuation orders. It is expected to approach or even make landfall in the Cayman Islands overnight before moving onward to Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula.
As you can also see, Beryl is centered about 265 miles to the east-southeast of Grand Cayman. So the Cayman Islands are sort of next in line for seeing significant impacts. And again, Beryl's moving west-northwest pretty quickly at about 18 miles per hour. So if we look at the forecast, where is it headed next? Beryl is going to be moving west-northwestward, again, across the Caribbean, with those hurricane and tropical storm force winds beginning to affect the Cayman Islands later this afternoon and tonight, where hurricane warnings are in effect for Little Cayman, Cayman Brac, and Grand Cayman.
Cayman Islands residents have been bracing for its potential impact, which is expected in the early hours of Thursday.
I'm feeling a bit anxious, but at the same time, I'm trying to keep calm because I have my son, as well as if anyone else in the community or around me needs help. I'm just trying to keep calm, but I am anxious and a bit scared.
Now, the hurricane is expected to weaken to a tropical storm as it crosses the Yucatan Peninsula and re-emerges over the weekend at storm strength into the Gulf of Mexico. Beryl is then expected to hit Mexican territory a second time in the Gulf Coast states of Veracruz or Tamaulipas near the Texas border.
Mexican officials are scrambling to prepare for Beryl, which is expected to hit somewhere between the well-known tourist hotspot of Tulum and the town of Felipe Carrillo, Puerto. Government workers in the Mexican resort city of Cancun saved 10,400 turtle eggs.
The government has prepared 112 shelters with the capacity for some 20,000 people and suspended school in the state of Quintana Roo, where Beryl will hit.
Rising water levels in the Yangtze River following intense rains in southern China have prompted eastern regions downstream to prepare for possible flooding.
Small business owners along the streets of Pinjiang County in the Chinese province of Hunan province woke up to devastating losses after the area was pounded by heavy rainfall and floods. More details in our next report.
This shop owner in southern China's Hunan province is busy cleaning up debris on Wednesday after heavy rainfall and flooding devastated her stationery store. She says she didn't receive any notice to move her goods and asked, how can a family survive in this situation? Heavy rainfall pounded parts of Hunan earlier this week, causing the water level of a local river to reach its highest level in 70 years. Local authorities have activated the maximum emergency response level. This restaurant owner said she had to flee before it became impossible to get herself out. Now, with her business flooded, she says she is heartbroken and doesn't know how she will provide for her children. Last week, President Xi Jinping urged authorities to put in all-out efforts to protect lives as floods and natural disasters increased. China has provided more than $316.4 million in funds to help with rescue efforts and emergency supplies, as deadly floods and landslides caused by almost 2 weeks of torrential rain ravaged several parts of the country. In Changsha, the capital of Hunan, the Xiang and Laoda rivers are expected to hit peak dangerous levels Thursday morning, state media reported.
And with that, it's time now for a short break.
Don't go anywhere. This is World DNA. On the other side, days after assuming charge, India's army chief visited Poonch Rajouri forward posts in Jammu to review the situation along the LOC.
Also on the show, T20 World Champions India back home 5 days after winning the title in Barbados. We will get you the details on the other side. Stay tuned.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Namaste. Hello friends. We did Dr. Subhash Chandra show, popularly known as DSC show, for 4 years, from August 2014 to August 2018. 28 states of Bharat. Of course, we reached out to all of you in 190 countries across the world. The show was very successful. Each episode was being watched by almost 25 million people every week. For past 6 years, the demand of the show has never died down. People write to us, people ask for the show to start again. Hence, we are beginning the show once again on All Z Network, also on WION, which is the global network channel from India. Again, thank you for your love and affection. See you soon at Subhash Chandra Show.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at yoursarthi@such.org.in.
The first contingent of Kenyan police officers are in the crisis-hit Caribbean nation of Haiti, amid opposition from their countrymen who have tagged them as being brutal. Can they end Haiti's gang crisis? West African Regional Bloc ECOWAS sounds the alarm of being underfunded, forcing the organization to seek $2.6 billion annually for a strong security force to combat terrorism in the region. And meet Ma Kolma Bangura, who is hoping to defy the odds and compete in judo at the Olympics for Guinea. Watch World of Africa at these times on WION.
Iran heads for a runoff election on Friday. Reformist Pezeshkian and hardliner Jalili battle it out in round 2 after low voter turnout in round 1. Will the runoff be any different?
خب مردم عزیز ما داشتن و این در حالی بود که دانشجویان ما درگیر
Ahead of the 5th of July, presidential candidates clash over foreign policy and sanctions in a debate. Khamenei loyalist Jalili promises to adhere to the hardline ideals of the 1979 Islamic Revolution, while the reformist camp is hopeful of change.
Amid a wave of popular anger against the ruling party in the UK, millions will exercise their mandate in a historic election on the 4th of July.
Keir Starmer, leader of the Labour Party.
Up against a never-seen infighting, dissent, disputes against its leadership, the Conservatives are fighting with their backs to the wall. Will the Tories suffer a total wipeout? Will Labour clinch an unprecedented victory? From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Vielleicht nur als
Welcome back to World DNA. Thank you so much for staying with us. Lots lined up for you on this side of the show. Let's get started with the headlines.
Is President Biden considering stepping down?
Absolutely not.
US President Joe Biden vows to stay in the 2024 presidential race, insists in meetings with Democratic lawmakers and governors that he is fit for re-election despite his shaky debate performance last week against Trump.
Trump edges past Biden in opinion polls nationally and across battleground states after Biden's poor debate performance as Democrats' turnout is in question.
Britain looks set to elect Labour Party leader Keir Starmer as its next Prime Minister as voters go to polls, sweeping Rishi Sunak's Conservatives out of office after 14 turbulent years.
Israel confirms it is studying Hamas's response to a proposal that would include a hostage release deal and ceasefire in Gaza. Hamas confirms submitting its latest proposal, says that it is eager to reach an agreement to stop the war.
Nepalese Prime Minister Pushpa Kamal Dahal in crisis after a key ally in his multi-party coalition withdraws support, pushes his government into a minority in parliament 4 months after the coalition was formed.
Toll in the deadly stampede in India's northern state of Uttar Pradesh rises to 123. Hunt is on for the preacher who was conducting the religious gathering.
Powerful Hurricane Beryl churns along Jamaica's southern coast, battering the island with dangerous winds and sea surge after leaving a trail of destruction and at least 7 people dead in the Caribbean.
World champions India return home 5 days after winning the T20 World Cup in Barbados. The men in blue are given a hero's welcome by the fans and will meet Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi for breakfast next. India's Army Chief General Upendra Dwivedi, days after assuming charge, visited Poonch Rajouri forward post in Jammu to review the situation along the line of control.
An army spokesperson said that General Dwivedi, along with senior army officers, visited the forward locations of the White Corps and reviewed the situation along the line of control. Now, this was his first visit to the region after taking charge as the 30th Chief of the Indian Army on the 30th of June, and it assumes significance in view of the ongoing Amarnath Yatra and massive anti-terror operations underway, especially in the hilly districts.
On his return from Poonch, General Dwivedi presided over a high-level meeting of the Army and police personnel at the Army headquarters in Nagrota and commended all ranks for upholding high standards of professionalism and urged them to continue being resolute in addressing all security issues, both present and future.
All right, as part of its investigations into the NEET UG paper leak case, India's investigation agency, the CBI, of course, arrested an alleged co-conspirator, Amant Singh from Dhanbad in the state of Jharkhand.
Now, earlier in the same state, the agency had arrested principal and vice principal of the Hazaribagh-based Oasis school, which allegedly put up the NEET candidates and provided them with question papers. The Bihar police had obtained burnt question papers from the premises. The CBI has registered 6 FIRs so far in the case. The FIR from Bihar pertains to the paper leak, while the rest from Gujarat and Rajasthan are about the impersonation of candidates and cheating.
The CBI also conducted a raid in a Newtown apartment in West Bengal's Kolkata. The flat belonged to Amit Kumar, a Jharkhand resident. So far, the investigation agency has arrested people from Bihar, Jharkhand, Maharashtra and Gujarat in connection with the NEET question leak. The CBI is yet to locate the main accused, Sanjeev Mukhia. Investigations revealed that Sanjeev had regular trips to several states, including Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan and Jharkhand.
The NEET UG exam is conducted by the National Testing Agency for admissions to MBBS, BDS, Ayush and other related courses in government and private institutions. This year, the exam was conducted on the 5th of May at 4,750 centres in 571 cities, including 14 abroad. More than 2.3 million candidates had appeared for the test. All right, central banks around the world are charting separate courses when it comes to interest rates.
While the US Federal Reserve remains on hold, Europe is signaling a shift towards easing and emerging markets are taking a case-by-case approach here. Take a look at this next report for more.
Financial markets are witnessing a shift in global monetary policy. While the U.S. Federal Reserve maintains a wait-and-see approach, central banks around the world are increasingly signaling a move towards easier monetary conditions. A recent report by Bloomberg Economics forecasts a combined 155 basis points of rate cuts across major economies by 2025. This stands in contrast to the U.S. Fed's projected 75 basis points of cuts in the same time frame. The European Central Bank is leading the pack with expectations for earlier and more significant rate cuts compared to the US. This divergence is driven by regional economic disparities. While the US grapples with persistent inflation, Europe faces a greater risk of recession due to the war in Ukraine and ongoing supply chain disruptions. China presents a unique case within the global monetary picture. Unlike many other central banks, China's People's Bank of China has maintained a relatively accommodative stance throughout 2023. This is due to a confluence of factors including a slowdown in the Chinese economy and concerns about a potential property market crisis. India's central bank, the Reserve Bank of India, remains on a tightening path for now. Inflation concerns and currency stability necessitate continued policy action to manage price stability. However, the RBI's future trajectory depends on how inflation evolves and aligns with the bank's targets. Two policymakers have already rooted for rate cuts, suggesting a divergence from the cautious stance. Meanwhile, Russia stands as a stark outliner in the current global trend towards monetary easing. While central banks worldwide are contemplating or enacting rate cuts, Russia's central bank is likely to pursue further rate hikes in the coming months. This divergence stems from the unique economic challenges Russia faces. The war in Ukraine and subsequent sanctions have triggered a surge in inflation. The Russian ruble has also experienced significant depreciation, putting additional upward pressure on prices. Emerging markets present a more complex picture. Some countries like Brazil are expected to hold rates steady after pausing their easing cycles. This cautious approach reflects concerns about lingering inflation and currency stability. The coming months will be a time for close observation as central banks across the globe navigate the delicate balance between controlling inflation and fostering economic growth. Business Bureau, WION World is One.
Russia is turning to cryptocurrencies and other digital assets to counter Western sanctions imposed over the Ukraine conflict.
The central bank has recommended businesses use multiple payment solutions, including digital currencies, to facilitate transactions with foreign partners.
Now, this shift comes as trade with non-sanctioning countries faces setbacks due to recent sanctions. These sanctions have targeted major Russian financial institutions, including the Moscow Stock Exchange and Russia's alternative to the SWIFT global payment system. Central Bank Governor Elvira Nabiullina acknowledged that payment problems are a key challenge for the Russian economy. Governor Nabiullina highlighted the opportunities presented by new financial technologies, stating that Russia has softened its stance on cryptocurrencies for international payments. Discussions are ongoing with business partners in various countries, including BRICS nations, to develop a new global payments system independent of Western institutions. However, the creation of such a system will take time.
Andrei Kostin, head of Russia's second-largest lender, VTB, emphasized the need for secrecy regarding mechanisms to facilitate international payments due to the sensitivity and rapid reaction from Western countries. To mitigate the impact of sanctions on its economy, Russia is considering the use of stablecoins for cross-border transactions, particularly with China. Deputy Governor Alexei Guznov indicated that regulatory measures for stablecoins are being developed, potentially transitioning from an experimental stage to a stable regulatory framework.
This policy change aims to provide a lethal pathway for the transfer, accumulation and use of stablecoins in international payments, helping Russia avoid some barriers in the current financial system. However, compliance with international finance laws and sanctions remains a critical consideration in this initiative.
Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping met for the second time in less than 2 months on Wednesday. Both leaders praised their Eurasian Security Club, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, as a force for global stability. Putin and Xi emphasized the SCO's role in countering Western influence. Founded in 2001 by Russia, China and Central Asian nations, the SCO has expanded to include India, Iran and Pakistan, strengthening its position as a counterweight to Western powers. And here's all the developments from the world of technology now. California lawmakers have voted to advance a bill that requires AI companies to test their systems and add safety measures. This is to prevent AI from being manipulated to disrupt the state's electric grid or assist in building chemical weapons. Experts say such scenarios could become possible as AI technology rapidly evolves. The bill aims to reduce risk created by AI. It is the first of its kind and faces strong opposition from venture capital firms and tech companies including Meta and Google. They argue the regulations target developers instead of those who misuse AI. Makers of the bill say it would provide reasonable safety standards to prevent catastrophic harm from powerful AI models.
China has taken a leading role in generative AI inventions like chatbots. According to the United Nations, China has filed 6 times more generative AI patents than the United States. Generative AI creates text, images, computer code, and even music from existing information. The World Intellectual Property Organization has reported that between 2014 and 2023, China has filed over 38,000 generative AI inventions, while the United States has filed nearly 6,300. Chinese patents cover sectors like autonomous driving, publishing, and document management. As per the UN's data, South Korea, Japan, and India rank 3rd, 4th, and 5th, respectively, with India growing the fastest.
Japan has started circulating its first new banknotes in 20 years. What's so special about these currency notes, though? They feature 3-dimensional portraits of the founders of financial and female education institutions. This has been done in an attempt to frustrate counterfeiters. The notes use printed patterns to generate holograms of the portraits facing different directions. According to Japan's National Printing Bureau, this technology is the world's first for paper money.